This is a demo of this project that I was working on back in March. I guess you could call it a demo. I'm not really working on it anymore, but yeah, so it's a Godot project. You start the game and it begins generating all the grass and flowers. Sometimes that thread that does that hangs and it gets fucking permanently stuck. Anyway, so you enter into this place, had this kind of like Zelda-like warp portal. And here's like this vent. And yeah, got some texture on the walls and lots of grass. I see this is before I added the other grass texture on top of this. But anyway, the grass is actually made of like points in space and also line segments. It's kind of like rendering these primitive elements. And yeah, there's like millions of them or whatever. I don't know how many pieces of grass there are in this scene, but they're randomly generated along with the flower placements and the flower rotations and stuff. And you can click the flowers to pluck them. Another thing about the grass is that if you stomp on it and you're really mean to it, and you're running all over it, eventually the grass dies. And that means you can get those kind of, I was inspired by the concept of desire paths. You know, like if all the students going to the university always take the same shortcut through the grass dies and makes a trail. And that's kind of what this is. You can kind of see it. Stomping is a pretty good way. It's like an effective way to kill the grass. But even if you just walk on it, it's slowly damaging the grass. So you can kind of see the trail I made if you look close. And that actually is kind of like a permanent thing now, because like if you reload your game and you come back here, the grass is still dead. Here's the light, just a light. And you know, the wall has some normal map on it, so the lighting looks kind of cool. Here are some items. They're like floating keys. They cast like this item shadow. You pick up the key, it appears in the upper right corner. Now I have the green key, so the green door is accessible, so it's like I can highlight the door by pointing at it, then I click and it opens the door. Of course the door is solid before you open it, and you can move through it once you've opened it. You can also jump. Oh, I guess I showed you jumping already, but you can also wall jump if you time it right. I made it 8 frames at 60 frames per second as a timing window. Yeah, so this is using some kind of cell shader that I kind of cobbled together. You also might notice that there's like this outline shader. Basically it draws a wireframe based on the normals, so like even if there's like triangles in here, if the normal is the same, it won't draw the line. So you get like the sharp edges with the darker lines, and more gradual edges are like not as apparent. Up here there's also a skeleton key. Unfortunately there's no lighting on the damn thing, so you can't see what it looks like lit up, but you pick it up. You can see it lit in the upper corner, because it's like, yeah, anyway. Obviously the skeleton key can open any door once it's a disposable item. There's also, this creates like damage. It's like a platform that is being held up by this like rocket. You step in it and your health sinks and you die. So watch out. This version is before I fixed like a little glitch with the health bar, but whatever, I fixed that later. There's also a console you can open with page down. There's some commands here, one of which is AABB, which stands for Axis Aligned Bounding Box. So when you trigger it, and you walk around and you look down, you might notice these squares are starting to appear, and this is because in order to get the grass being able to get damaged by jumping on it, like you don't want to run a search against every single piece of grass in the entire scene, because then you're doing like millions of checks for every time you take a step. Obviously that's going to slow it down, so this is using the tree like segmentation where different blades of grass are assigned to different boxes. Sometimes you notice a box might be bigger because there wasn't a need to segment it any further. There's basically like a cap, like 50 blades of grass can sit in a box or something. And if it's more than 50, then it segments further. Oh, as you can see, the night ended, it's now daytime. Oh, unfortunately I didn't really like get to show you the stars very closely, but the stars are all sprites. The sun is a sprite, and it's all very slowly rotating. So if you like sit and watch it, you can see like the whole galaxy spinning. And the stars are pretty, and the daytime is very boring, so unfortunately I forgot to show that off. But there's also fall damage. If you fall down, there's a whole area down here. So if I fall down to here, it's like I'm dead. And I can fall down there again and die. And I can fall down to a not as far fall and survive, and go down back to kind of where I was. And if you notice, some of the grass turned red with your blood as you die. So the grass gets stained with your blood. Another thing too is that those flowers you can pluck, when you click them, you get some health back. So they're kind of helpful. And then this is a little test of a loading zone. So this takes you to a different map. It's saving the game here as well. It's like an autosave. And then because this is my first time on this scene, it needs to generate all the flowers. So hopefully the thread won't hang. Okay. So here's like a different area. This one has ice on it. I used to have an ice texture, or maybe I did in like a later build of this or something. But I still got the sparkles sparkling around. They're a little glitchy the way they spawn. Like if you look down and look up suddenly, sometimes they appear like too synchronized or something. I don't know, whatever. But basically the ice is slippery. So it's like hard to build up momentum on it. And if you're already going fast, you'll keep going fast. And made a little floating island over here, and you know, you can fall off the world. It'll spawn you back up there. And if we go back to the first area, that'll load a lot faster because it already generated all the flowers. So everything's the same. You can see that the path I made is still there because it saves all the data. And that's this is basically where I got to in, I think it was like April of this year. Sometime after this I decided to actually turn this whole thing into an HD, like an HD version of this, and then actually trying to make a player character and then change it from first person to third person. Alright, so this is like some kind of title screen thing. There's a lot of corrupt save data. So yeah, I'm gonna just load the save. And this takes me to... Oh, I need to plug my controller in. This is my character. I have a camera that rotates around her. There's like 3 different levels of zoom as you click the R3 button. And the right stick moves the camera, the left stick lets you walk around. I spent a lot of time modeling her, but I wasn't totally finished with everything. But yeah, like I wrote a custom shader for like her tights, where like if it's a more direct on angle, like if the normal is like, if the view angle and like the normal on her leg is like, they're kind of facing each other, then it's more see-through, so you get like more skin tone. And then as it goes off to kind of like a 90-degree reflection, then it turns kind of darker, and I think that's actually a really nice way to do it. Plus there's the cell shader on top of it, so that looks really nice. And I spent forever on her hair, but it's still kind of cruddy, especially when you look from below. And I like her boots, but her idle animation, like her boots kind of sticking through the ground a bit. And when she walks, if she runs, her run animation's a little goofy. I can't really figure out how to get exactly what I want. Here you can see the stars I was talking about before. They're actually remade for HD, and you can see all the UI has been remade for HD as well, but some of the magic's lost. The grass doesn't work well in HD because it was made of like these big pixels before, and if I try to draw like these primitive lines, you can't even control the width of it, and it wouldn't give a good enough results. I made some incredibly shitty tree and like this little apple thing that you can't interact with at all. I wasn't really sure what I was doing, and this is about where I lost steam in the project. So I got this far, then I was like, okay, I guess I'm depressed. I'm gonna go play Smash. So yeah, there was some other stuff I was working on. I made a generator that can generate random trees, like 3D meshes of trees. It's not totally, it doesn't totally work. Like, I wasn't able to connect it as well as I wanted to, so I consider it kind of unfinished. I have a lot of desires to make something, and I'll get there eventually.